Welcome, bienvenue to a special committee of the whole meeting for the municipality of the county of Annapolis on this beautiful day. We'll start with roll call.
District 2, Jesse Hare. District 3, Justin Anslow.
District 4 is Charles Cranton, Councillor Cranton. He's absent for today. Unable to change his work today.
Lynn Longmire, District 5.
John Welch, District 6.
Ed Eichenbauer, District 7.
Niall Harding, District 8.
Gidget Oxner, District 9.
Buzzy Connell, District 10.
Diane LeBlanc, District 11. And is there any disclosure of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. For the approval of the agenda, we have only one item on the agenda today. And we will continue with the approval of the agenda as is. We are now going to new business, which is the review of the strategic plan. We're going to have lots of discussions. It's all up to you. Well, you can start.
Thank you, Warden. So again, today we're looking to talk about our strategic plan and basically do a bit of a review of where we are with the current strategic plan, talk about if there's things that we want to add, delete, or change. So basically today, we're going to talk a little bit about where we want to be, talk about our current plan, which will be more after some of our general discussion. And then basically what will happen is that staff will take all your information from today and compile a draft, which will have a discussion with all of our senior staff and other staff as well. And then basically come back to committee of the whole or council for further discussion and approval. So generally what we're going to walk through today is the foundational questions. So I had sent you some questions last week. If you didn't, if you had a chance to think about them, I'm sure most of you have thoughts in your mind already. We'll talk about our key priorities, projects, and goals, and if there's things that you would like to see us more focused on, and talk about what that looks like. And talk about our current strategic priorities, so the plan that we currently have in place. We'll go through that list and talk about things that have been completed, things that are partially underway, and then there's a few things that just not sure that we can complete the way that it's set up now, so we'll have a discussion on that. And then at the end of it, we'll kind of do a summary and talk about our key priorities to make sure that everything's been captured. So Sarah's got a flip chart over there. I'm going to try and capture as much as we can as we go, just to make sure that everybody's comments get heard. I would just say too that Councillor Brandon did send the warden and deputy warden and I kind of his thoughts, so we'll try and plug in as we go, just so that his comments don't be missed as well, or at least add if it's not covered by somebody else. So. Again, today's really about your thoughts and discussion. So again, a lot of these questions that we put forward are really just to generate discussion. And again, as I said, I know that you would probably all have good answers to these with some time to think about, which is why we sent them to you last week, to give you a bit of a chance to put your thoughts down, and hopefully we can have good discussion. So if we may, Warden, I would just put out that first question. What do you see as the core purpose of the municipality? Core purposes.
Okay, who's going to start? I read my paper. Okay, Councillor Longmire.
So when I think about our communities and I think about our greater Annapolis County, I think about connections, right? Engaging intentionally, us reaching out. And, you know, right now, this is perfect because we've just recently heard that we're going to be having community conversations at our hall. or sites that are, able to house, a number of people to engage. And I think that that's one of the greatest steps we can take is being more visible, and going to our communities rather than them coming to us. As much as I would love to have the gallery full all the time, it only houses so many. It's really important. We've got an aging population. We've got infirmities in our communities. So going out and doing that is going to be so beneficial. It costs very little for us to do that, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. And I equate it to a call bell in the hospital. If you wait for the person to call you with the call bell, they're already in crisis, right? So we want to be more proactive rather than reactive. So going out, hearing the voices, hearing the concerns, meeting them in their communities where it matters most. That's what it means to me.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Next up is Councillor Hare.
To answer the question directly, what do you see as the core purposes of the municipality? I believe I can answer that very shortly, to provide the fundamental services that the municipality delivers. Everything else just kind of branches off of that. So the core services being things like planning, bylaws, garbage collection, and a little bit of financial support to communities when needed. And so to me, that's a simple question, but a simple answer. And to elaborate on it more, wouldn't necessarily be the core purposes, but stuff that branches off the core purposes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hare. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. Well, basically, a lot has already been said. We are the level of government closest to the people. And because of that, we end up getting a catch-all, whether it's not our responsibility or not. So, yes, provide core purposes, but it's also to help our citizens navigate through various challenges, whether it's ours or not. And if it's not ours, we can direct them and help them navigate to go to the next step. I know that that's most of our jobs as counselors is to get phone call issues and whether they're in our fire or not, and if they're not, then we direct them to the right people. But I also believe that some of our purpose is to help sell the municipality and make our municipality known to attract people to come here. That's more of our role when it comes into economic development. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Next on my list is Councillor Conlon.
Well, I think one of the core things is that we make sure we manage taxpayers' money properly and that we always keep a view of county being county-wide, not having hot zones that all of our funding goes to, that we should be, everyone pays taxes, no matter if they live at the very tip of Springfield or the very tip of Trunkgate. Our outskirts deserve just as much attention as our centers. So I think some of our purpose should be is to make sure that all of our citizens are looked at. Just don't expense.
Disperse wisely. Next is Councillor Agenbar.
Pretty much what I had written down here. Not a no-brainer in that respect. We have to provide those services, but I also had the word governance in my core purpose as well, to provide governance through local elected officials, which kind of drills down to what the deputy warden had said. We're the closest thing to any kind of a governance factor to the people that actually elect us, boots on the ground, if you will. So that's very important. I also highlighted providing and overseeing financial accountability. And pretty well everything else that we said was also on my list. So yeah, pretty basic stuff.
And that's it. Good, thank you. Is there anybody else? Councillor Welch.
For me, it comes down to quality of life and how we can provide for our residents. And we do that through advocating for them We do that through providing services, maintaining infrastructure, recreation, housing, and of course fiscal responsibility. It encompasses all of that. Leads to a better quality of life.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hardy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of it. I would just say under the fundamental core services, I think, it also include fire and police or emergency services. The same things written down as Councillor Hare mentioned. I just had those extra things that represent and advocate for residents, which I think we've kind of covered as well. So I think I'm on board with everything.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor? All covered. I think we kind of covered the whole gamut there.
Excellent, thank you. So really, when you look at your, it's something that will work into what we would call the vision for the municipality. And this is, kind of our, if we can summarize it in a sentence or two, that would be basically the vision that we look at and will lead us in basically everything that we do. So the next part would be if everything goes to plan. That's the thing, yes. How would you see Annapolis County in whether it's 5 years or even further down?
Councillor Ardenberg?
Well, no one has a crystal ball, but some things are evident. There's tremendous opportunity for growth, that we can see immediately. Particularly with, what's happening right now federally in respect to, the impetus for military footprint, upgrading and expansion, particularly right here in our adjacent county. We need to prepare for increased housing that's going to come with that as well. So I see a solid future for our county, and I think some of the things that we're going to be doing now are going to be in preparation for that new infrastructure that's going to happen and everything that's going to come along with it, which will include increased retail and hopefully industrial operations as well. There's going to be more need for recreation, and we've got a really good start on that now throughout the county, but there are certainly areas in the county that we need to focus on as well to share that sort of vision and infrastructure in respect to that. I think that's what I had written down here.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Next is Councillor Hare.
Again, fairly simple. I hope 5-10 years, we just see continuous growth. And when I say growth, I hope we see more, so a lot of growth in business in the county, because it all comes back to business. The more businesses, the more money there is in the county for housing, so on and so forth. And then alongside the growth of business, I hope we see the respective growth in municipal government in relation to the amount of growth we have in the county, not exceeding the growth we have in county. I don't want us to try to exceed the growth we have, stay within our means, and we grow with the county.
Okay. Thank you. Next is Deputy Warden.
Very good point. What I personally like to see is that the county booming with new businesses, with new families here. We have a lot of talk, and I found it interesting in a comment that Councillor Crampton put in his note of many times our region feels like a pass-through and not a place to visit or a place to move. A lot of people see it as a come for a day. It'd be nice for us to move towards that, to grow and sell our municipality. And I think we're starting that now, but I think we still have a long ways to go. And our biggest battle is around housing. The fact that every time we turn around and think that we're getting ahead, it gets pushed back, whether for whatever reason. But we need to start seeing things happen. And the fact that we're posting the economic development position, should hopefully start bringing some people and business here, would help us grow. Because if we stay stagnant, it's not good for us, it's not good for the citizens. And we already have a huge amount of aging infrastructure. So as part of that plan, unfortunately, the municipality has to take a stand to help with making this area attractive, whether it's making sure the water lines work and making sure we have paved roads. And there are things that attract people here that make them, because right now, we are competing with Kings County, especially when we're looking at the influx, 1,500 people coming to 14 Wing. That's a race that I would like to win. And now that they have a e-transfer tax, we are finally even. Now it is a battle of services and what we can do to bring people here. And unfortunately, people coming from that background, when people are posted to Greenwood, they're looking for opportunities for their families, whether it's recreation or something. And most military families do not do recreation at 14 Wing. They don't want to work at the base all day and then come back and bring, even if you look at the club that I'm part of with my kids speed skating, is they tried that at 14 Wing, wasn't successful because it's at 14 Wing. And so military families are part of that. There's people all around Annapolis County. So we need to really start looking at what can we do within our control to entice people to come here. Whether it's having well-maintained recreational, or is it having recreational programs? It's all around keeping people active. So unfortunately, that's something we don't have right yet in our municipality. It's a whole lot of recreational programs. We have a whole lot of recreation, we have a whole lot of parks and trails and all that. But we don't have actual distinct programs. We don't have a child summer camp. We don't have these things that the parents are saying, please take my kids. So, I think we have to look at, I think we're doing that now. We have to do an internal look. That way in 5 and 10 years, we could say, listen, this is what we have. We are better than Kings. Yes, you can go to Kings County to watch movies, but we want you to live in Annapolis County. And I think we have a really good core and a good base to bring people here. We just need to continue selling it. So I have to say, that's what we need to focus on. But staying within our means.
Totally agree. Thank you. Councillor Welsh.
It's a good question. Because we're gonna see a lot of change, I think, in the next number of years. But if we can control how we grow, if we can stay stable through that growth, and if it can be sustainable too, so we're not stretching ourselves too far and leaving room for contingencies that I think may be coming. Economically, I'd like to see us to continue to grow. I moved to this region, not as a pass through, but because I saw it as a destination. I saw a lot of opportunity here as a business owner and as a family guy to have the shoreline, the wilderness, and the communities to participate in. So I think if we can continue to promote that in a sustainable way, I think this community in this area is going to continue to grow. So that's what I see.
Thank you. Great. Councillor Harding.
Yeah, so the way I'm looking at it is, in 5 to 10 years, I'd like to see us be in a stable financial position. I'd like us to have reserves available for capital expenditures. I think that's something we're probably gonna have to focus on. And I'd like to, be able to say in 5 to 10 years, we're gonna be in a stable position. Tied in with that, I'd also like to kind of echo what the others have said and see a balanced growth across the county. And I also have here, it would be nice if we had a way to have a stronger rural population retention. So, in some of our more rural areas, if we were able to, and that ties into the recreation. We have access to good recreation, good trails, good services for people across the county in all different areas. Then that could increase the rural population retention, and that just increases growth across the whole county. And I think that's what we're looking to do is to grow. And then that's gonna help, that's gonna tie in and help with the financial side of things. So those are some of the points that I had down. That's it. Thanks.
Very good. Next is Councillor Connell.
5 to 10 years. I'll go back 10 years. We promoted this county as a retirement living spot. That's what we got. Retirement living spot. Seniors do not want to start new businesses. Seniors don't care a lot about some recreational facilities. So either they're limited to what they can do, or they just got little side projects that they like to do for recreation. We didn't encourage younger generation people in our county for years. And it shows. Because we could probably count on my hands, my toes, how many new businesses have been in this county in the last 10 years. That's created any amount of work. Small, come up and down. So you can see the evolving part of the county is that younger generation people are moving to our area. 10 years ago, I asked my daughter and her husband, they're both teachers, why didn't they come back and move into an county and teach? She was blunt. She said, there's nothing there for me, nothing for my kids. And she was 100% correct. So I think that looking forward in the next 5 to 10 years, definitely we got to live within our means. We have got aging infrastructure that needs attention. We've got to come up with a good strategic plan on how do we get those facilities to a 10-year mark, that we can maybe put funding away and have reserves to look at new infrastructure, because infrastructure is expensive and it'll be probably double or triple in 10 years' time. But we have to live within our means. There's only so much taxpayers' money. Hopefully we can create some new businesses to come in the area and affordable housing. Housing is expensive, so it really shows when you talk to younger generation people on where they're living or how. So I think that promoting our county is absolutely a must, that we got to promote it with the things we have, and encourage youth to, or younger generation people to live in the rural communities, maybe commute to their jobs, and build on that. I mean, we know that everyone said, the Greenwood thing's coming our way. And I know that where hands are tied in some situations, because, for instance, years ago on the Messenger Road, that was one of the best paved roads in the county for the longest time. But the government said no, and this government did too. When a gentleman came in and wanted to put housing all the way down the front of his agricultural land, we denied him. But he would have guaranteed us a sign that he would have went back into the forest, which he wasn't gonna do anything with, and clear cut and make farming of the land twice as much as what we would zone. We still said no. So we cut the best paved road in our county, we cut a residential building that touches Greenwood and said no. So sometimes we're our own worst enemies when we don't think outside the box and try to help contractors and help the situation with planning, fight for what we want for our county. Maybe the province wants us to save that one piece of property, but if it's gonna create thousands of dollars in income to this county, maybe we should stand there on our own feet and say, no. We need the infrastructure. I'm all for protected farmland. But you still have to look at how can you build your county, survive outside of that. So I think it's a tool we have to work with, and I think that the young people I've talked to quite a few in the rink and other sports facilities I've been in the last couple of months, because my grandson's there, so I'm kind of tangled in with younger generation people. And I'm always ask them what do they enjoy in this county and why they moved here and stuff like that. The younger generation likes to get out of the fast pace too. They all don't want to be downtown Halifax, they don't want to be in the cities. So let's make it over the next 5 years, have a direction of kind of getting promoting what we have and building our reserves so we can move forward in the next 5 years. It can't be done overnight.
No. Plus we have to deal with the changing things, like gas prices, and so on. There is. I digress.
This time, see what everybody else said.
Who's next?
That's what I usually do.
It's a time, let's do it.
Who's next? Councilor Oxner
Oh,
and.
thank you. Thank you, Warden. That question is a very loaded question. Obviously, we need growth in the county. How do we encourage businesses to come here, and incentivize it for them? I see more small business rather than medium to large size businesses coming to this area. And with the housing, yes, we need more housing, but we also need the jobs so that people can afford that housing. It's no good having a bunch of apartment buildings go up that are empty because our citizens can't afford it. And again, the housing, we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot. At one time, you could build a small starter home, live in it, finish it as you go, add on as you go. We're no longer allowing people to do that. They're paying for it as they have the money and they have a place to live. Now, your house has to be complete before you can move in. With the cost of housing, it's under people's means to have that starter home. The starter home's $400,000 now. So we have kind of shot ourselves in the foot that way. But again, that's something we need to look at. People need to be able to afford to live. We're lacking a sense of pride in the whole community. We're very siloed with our communities, and I would like to see us improve that somehow. Not sure how, but there's got to be a way. As you drive through the more densely populated areas, obviously they seem to take a little more pride. As you get out in more rural, you might have a lovely property and then one that should be condemned. I think we're very weak in our unsightly and unsafe premises regulation. And that needs to be looked at, and that goes back to pride of the county. That we really need to build. And we can do that through our improved collaboration and consultation with our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Very good. Councilor Longmire, you're next.
Good.
Wow, well, thank you, Warden, and I just want to thank Councillor Oxner for raising the point unsightly. I think we are as well weak, and I think we need to step our game up. It's not about just tolerating what someone might suggest in their community is okay to live next door to or with. It is about taking more pride in what our county looks like. So I'll leave that there. But for me, I know this is out of our purview, healthcare, but we have to have a stronger voice in what that's going to look like. People will not move here for jobs, rent a place to live, or try and afford a place to buy if they don't have those most important parts to care, and that is healthcare. So I'm seeing Lawrencetown, growing leaps and bounds, amazing, and we can see more of that. But I think our voice somehow, some way needs to be even stronger again. Reserves, we've already heard it. My heavens, we need to build the reserves or we won't have a future. So 5 years, what will that look like? We need it today. We need to start being aggressive today. But at the same time, I know we focus a lot on budgets and infrastructure. We talk the talk. We talk about operational decisions and all of that. But we have to be planning for tomorrow, not just talking like we want tomorrow to happen. We've got to be actively making a difference. Housing is no good unless we've got jobs for people to move here for. Now that brings me back to this past weekend when we were at NSFM and we talked about the weakness in our, around the province with internet. There's a golden opportunity. If we have strong internet, then we could be a booming business for people who work online, right? Just saying, we've waited way too long. They keep saying it's gonna happen. The gap's gonna close 99%. Haven't seen it yet. I'm one of the losers in that one. So schools, I look at the comment that Deputy Warden had made about camps, or I think you had said camps. It is so important. We have amazing places and spaces to play, walk, travel, hike, bike. And we can be that amazing special place. I believe we are. I lived away for 12 years in Louisiana, came back here because I wanted to live by the water, hear the roar of the waves, and as well be out in nature. Ticks have taken me away from that, but there's no recreation department to do about that. But I think those camp options, and I think about our schools being these most magnificent, they could open their doors. Somehow we need to encourage or find out how we can impress upon the Department of Education. Those places and spaces have all of the amenities. They are accessible, they have washrooms, they've got great things, and they've got beautiful grounds around them. They're local to spaces, because schools have to be built where there's, amenities. So they could walk to lunch downtown, or they could go to the Fort Anne in Annapolis Royal, or they could be in Bridgetown and walk down to Jubilee Park. There are so many golden opportunities that we could be doing if we could expand the camp option. And that's so important to families. They're busy, they work long hours, they don't necessarily get 6 weeks vacation. Children need places and spaces to feel safe and accommodated and welcomed. And when families are welcome, they will come. But we do need jobs, we need internet so they can work at home. And I do know that transportation is a must. So for me, I would love to see the bus someday go down to Victoria Beach. I hope I live long enough to see it. Maybe it'll look like a van, maybe it'll be a 12-person van. Maybe it won't be, it might not necessarily be every day, but let's say if it could go 2 days a week, right? Where families could make plans to come up to the mainland, right? I know during COVID failed me miserably. I was mandated back to the ends of the province and I wanted to keep my car off the road. And I wanted to try by bus, and I explored that option, but it would not arrive in time for me. I would have to be 4 hours early for work or 4 hours late getting home. That didn't satisfy me. So I think about that transportation piece. I think we're doing amazing, but I think we can do more, right? So we need to be able to sustain ourselves, maintain the services to a standard. And on the last, I want to say water. I'm tired of the challenges with Bridgetown community suffering every week a loss in ruptured pipes and all that kind of stuff. These people are waiting way too long for us to make a change. And I know this goes way on, but this is a 5-year plan. Surely we'll be able to see some of the remedies to those most important things happen. And so responsible to money, dollars and cents matter to our communities, to our citizens. It's tough times right now. We need to be strategic. This is why we're here. I'm just impressed that we're sitting around this table today doing this discussion. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Longmire. Anybody else?
You're gonna drop it off.
On the 5 or 10 year. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want to add one quick caveat to, obviously growth is big here. But growth while protecting the rural character of the Annapolis County. Because if we just sell ourselves out to developers and we have rows of houses on every side street, back road in our country, in our county, the whole way through, we won't be in Annapolis County anymore. So we can't have both. We can have growth while protecting our.
So infrastructure,
I love it.
Say it louder.
growth with infrastructure, hand in hand, in the proper areas.
Yes. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Conlon, for your second time?
And we have to work on our safe communities with the RCMP.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is getting to be one of the biggest complaints I'm hearing on the street is it's no more nights. They robbed the neat store in Nicktown the other day in Broaddale.
There are problems there, but I don't think we're the only county that have those problems.
But we need to work on
Yeah.
safe community and community policing.
Thank you.
Report everything we see as well. Do we have anybody else? We're going on to the next one.
Thank you, Warden. So the next one is fairly straightforward. What principles should guide all of our decision making?
We have Deputy Warden, we have Agambar, we have Harding, we have Longmire. I'll get this right. I'm looking on both sides like it's going this way. I saw Counselor Hare, and I think I saw, did I see who else? Not yet. Oh, Oxner, and not yet. Oh, Donald. Okay, so we'll start off with again, Deputy Warden.
This one's the easiest of the three, in my mind anyway. Acting in the best interest of the municipality as a whole and the people we serve. Sometimes sitting around the table, we sometimes forget the reason we're here, the people we serve. I think that every decision that we make, and I feel that our council is really good at looking at all the angles, and we have people on both sides of the aisles on various things. And I think that we're really good at thinking of the best interest of the county as a whole. I think that's how I really think about the principles of that. But also, there's a caveat to that is best interest of everyone and that's financial sense. We have a very unique opportunity where we've spent the past few years putting the ship back on course. And I feel that we're making some major gains in that. We're making some really good decisions. We just need to stay the course with that and really think about all the decisions that we make and how it affects the future. And I feel that so far in the past 2 years that we've actually done that. So, stay the course, make sure that we make some financial good decisions to benefit the county as a whole.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Counselor Agambar.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Actually, I think I can kind of sum up some of the things that the deputy has just touched on. So I had written down here, equity, oversight, sound fiscal management. That underlines everything we've talked about today, including the three previous topics. So that's number one in terms of a guiding principle for the council. I had district equality, which is, again, something similar to what the deputy warden had mentioned. And by that, I mean, there's 11 districts, and I know that's important to us all. And when we swore our oath, we swore our oath to the county, not just the districts that we serve. And again, to reiterate, I think that we do a pretty good job of that in terms of spreading around all the issues and situations that spring up everywhere. So I think that's certainly a guiding principle that we need to stay on. And I see the community halls in that respect. We have 44 community halls, last count, I think, in our county. That's huge. And they're the glue that pull this all together. So I think we need to continue to support those and increase that support. And I know we've done a really good job of that, and some of that was inherited from the previous council moving forward in terms of creating community centers and so on and so forth. But those are the core hubs, if you will, of all those different districts. And the last thing I had here was transparency. That's gonna come up a little bit here in some of the next things we're gonna talk about in terms of what we heard on the stump when we were knocking on doors to campaign. So I think that's extremely important as well. And again, I think we've made some good strides this council in respect to that.
Great, thank you.
Those are the key items that I jotted down when I thought about this. Thank
Very
you.
good, very good, thank you. Next is Councillor Hardy.
Thank you, Warden. Councillor Hagenbar pretty much touched on everything that I had written down here as well, but, fiscal responsibility, transparency, and I also had transparency, accountability, and communication. And I think that's something that this council has done well. We've moved towards communicating more, I would like to think, with what's happening at the county, what we're doing, and that increases the transparency of what we're doing. We're able to tell people what's happening, what's coming up, and then that increases the transparency, and that ties in the same as Councillor Hagenbar said to what I heard a lot about. I also have here evidence-based decision-making. I think it's very important that when we're making decisions here, we have all of the information and as accurate of information as we can possibly have before we make decisions. So I think that's a key principle that we need to focus on.
Thank you very much for that, I agree. Next, Councillor Longmire.
Of course, that went fast. At the core, so thank you. At the core, respect for our residents, responsible stewardship of public funds, fairness across our rural and diverse communities, as Councillor Hagenbar had said, and long-term thinking for the future of Annapolis County. It sounds simple, but we can talk all the talk, but we have to stick to the plan, which means maintaining, sustaining, and planning for the future, that it's possible to see the end result. So I love, Councillor Oxner had printed the copy off the website for the strategic from 2023, 2027. We're here to kind of review this and make changes. And it's like an operational plan for emergencies. We went through this last year with Long Lake Fire. We think about our emergency services, how important it is to know what our plan is, looks like, sounds like, and what it actions. We learned, we know now what we didn't know before we actioned the plan. The same thing with this. We can't know what we don't know until we get into the weeds. I'm so grateful that we saw this opportunity. I'm so thankful to the CAO for saying that we needed to go back to the table and really break this out and make better sense of it. It's important to balance today, but sometimes we can be a little too cautious and not want to press and move and make growth. So I hope that we can, along that way, show up in making some of those small changes that will make a difference for the communities and for the citizens. I think as the communication came up around with Councillor Harding, we have done an amazing job with our communication. I think we're seeing more people in gallery, which we need to continue to see. The debates around the table are amazing, and having all of the information available to us so that we can make a real confident vote, as opposed to having to dig for the information, is a real key point on that transparency. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Next is Councillor Hare.
For me, it's very simple. It's just grounded decision-making in its entirety. We make our decisions very grounded. We're not doing mental gymnastics to rationalize decision-making. If we spend, and so financially, if we spend $2 million here, then this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. Good luck explaining that to your residents. Our decision-making should be very simple to explain to our residents. And along the lines of, like, we're talking a lot about financial right now, but it also goes back to bylaw and planning. And we need to make grounded decision-making in bylaw and planning as well, because that is a big portion of what we do here. And so when we talk about growth, well, growth has to be for bylaw and planning. The people who are in the areas who elected us have to want that. And same thing with bylaw enforcement. I know there's decision making we make on what we have for bylaws. We cannot be, it needs to be suitable for the residents of each area we have in the county. Ground decision making.
Thank you. Councillor Oxner.
My colleagues have pretty much covered everything. But I would like to comment on the importance of consultation with our residents. But that consultation also has an education piece so that people understand why we're making the decisions we make. They're not just off the wall decisions. So I think our providing education is a huge piece here so that people understand our evidence-based decisions. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Connell.
I see as guiding principles, whenever we get a staff report, and we should have more staff reports on subjects before we have to beat the information out of them. What we're doing.
Be careful, Councillor. Just be careful.
It would be nice that a paper would come forward giving us the good side and the bad side, but we always just get the good side. Councilors have to argue downside of it. And that's the way it seems to be. So my guiding principle would be that we look at our decisions on who's included, who's excluded. Because there are reasons why people get excluded. It's gas, low income. Somebody who lives in Springfield, that's a single mother, may not even afford to bring her kids to any of the facilities we have in our county. But we never, it's left for the council to argue that. But we should have, decision making principles should be is that if we're gonna do a project, who's included, who's excluded.
Okay, so the report would be a little bit more detailed is what you want. Okay.
And all citizens included, because I can't say enough that our citizens out in the rural communities pay taxes the same as everybody else.
Okay. Thank you. Who's next? Councillor Welsh.
I'll be brief. Principles that should guide all our decision making. I think the one thing that we have to all realize is that we're here for a short time, and we should all act as stewards for our communities. And ultimately, when our role here is complete and we move on to whatever our next thing is, that in some way we've left our communities in a better state than when we came. And that can be fiscal responsibility, that can be recreation, that can be housing. But when we leave, we know that in some way we've left it better than when we came to it.
Thank you. Very well said. Thank you. Anybody else? I guess we can move on, Mr. CAO.
So next we're gonna talk about key priorities. So again, this is where you can share things like what you when you were campaigning a couple years ago, what you hear on a regular basis, that type of thing. Where you think our focus should be, and I'm just gonna kind of lump these together so you can share all of these thoughts at once, because they do all kind of blend together. And if there's particular county-wide initiatives or projects that you think we should consider, maybe we can or haven't put focus on.
Okay, so we're limping up, putting all three
All together.
together.
Oh, good.
So let's put that in your head now that we've got those all together. Anybody wants to start? Where do we focus? Where do we direct our focus? We'll start with Councillor Harding. We might as well all line up. Who else? Councillor Longmire, Deputy Warden, Councillor Agambar, Councillor Hare, Oxner, and Connell, and okay, we're gonna stand and
Yeah, we'll see what everyone says.
and see what person's is. I'll put her name down the bottom. Person Saltman at the end, just in case somebody missed something, right?
Right.
Okay. I know you have a lot to say because you've separated all three, so therefore, here we go. So Hardy, you're up.
All right, thank you, Warden. So, kind of focused in on what I heard from residents with this, when I was campaigning, and I think, we've made progress on some of the things that I heard a lot of, and a lot of it was to do with the transparency and the communication. Coming from the county, there was a bit of a sense that things were being done behind closed doors, and I think we've opened that up. We've invited people in and we've found ways to communicate with residents where they are, and we're continuing to do that, the initiative. So I think we're moving in the right direction with that. The other thing that I heard a lot of in my rural communities was in regards to access to recreation. And I think we are making progress on that as well. But I think what we need to keep in mind is recreation is not always accessible to everyone. A mother with small children may not be able to travel very far. A senior couple that just wants to get out and go for a walk or a hike may not want to travel very far. So having those recreational facilities accessible and somewhat nearby to these more rural communities is important, and it ties into having that retention of those people in our rural communities as well, and encouraging younger people to come in. And I know that there's issues with businesses and things as well and places to work, but and I know that healthcare is not under our purview, but it's something that we hear all the time. And Lawrencetown was a prime example of a way that municipalities can and possibly should look to try to improve access for clinics and things like that. There are municipalities that do things like that. I'm not saying that it's something we could afford to do, but it's something that our residents, at least in my district, were very focused on. As for countywide initiatives and projects, I think housing initiatives are important. I think that there could be something to look at with healthcare, looking at what Lawrencetown has done. And I think that we need to continue to focus on recreation, but finding a way to make sure that we're doing it in a financially responsible way. That's a hard thing to do. But I can't stress enough how important recreation is to the residents, not only in our more urban areas, but in our rural areas. I talk to so many people, young families, kids. I just want to take my kid to a park. I just want to take my kid to the playground. What we did at Hollow Mountain Road, the playground there. I mean, it's just little things like that can make a huge difference in a young family's life. And it can also make a nice trail for some of our older citizens to go and walk with as well. So those things are really important. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you very much. It reminds me of the playground in Nicholl as well. That
Yes,
was
that was another one.
and accessibility.
Yes.
Okay, where am I? Okay, Councillor Longmire.
And go really fast, so. Infrastructure, aging infrastructure, we've got to bite the bullet somehow, not wait 5 years. I'll leave that there. We know where that infrastructure is. Community well-being, parks, and continuing our growth in recreation. I don't need to expand any more than just to say that we need that accessible I know that, when they give us a time span of, we must be accessible by 2030, there will be places that cannot be, right? But the ones that can be, we need to make sure that it's meeting the standards of accessibility, not just following A, B, and C. There's A to Z. There are so many mistakes that are being made around accessibility. We think we're doing better when we create posters, but sometimes those posters don't meet the needs for the colorblind, and I could go on. It's like putting charging stations in for electric vehicles. We have to give lots of space and room so that vehicles don't have to park here, so they can get the wheelchair or the roller aid out. We need to meet those seniors, those persons with those different abilities, so that they don't have to come back and say, why wasn't it done correctly the first time? We need to be more sensitive. The honesty and transparency, of course, that will always prevail. It should be, right? We should be given all the information we can to make the best decisions possible and be able to defend it and debate it, and then stand up and take the test at the end when we're no longer around this table, be pride-filled that we did the very best we could. Besides the roads, I think that is part of my recreation, certainly in the district that I have in District 5, unsafe roads. I wouldn't put a child on the side of the road to ride a bicycle. So we're taking away cheap opportunities for recreation. So I think about that in terms of the wraparound with policing. Everyone is strapped. Police can't be everywhere. Slowing down for a sign that says share the road. Well, you can't share the road when the ditch is 10 feet deep, or the grass is so high, or the alders could spear your throat, and then you'd be left with a long-term injury. So I think, strollers, children, families going out with newborns and walking on the road. And I know the roads are not our purview, but they are. We are the voice of the people, and we have a right to bring up and say, how can we do better, or how can our voice show up better advocating? Climate change, it's going to be huge. It's before us, and it's happening every day somewhere. And so we need to be really cognizant of our planning strategies, making sure that we're ahead of it as opposed to reacting, right? I love what we've done with recreation in this county. I think we have shown up where we've got options and opportunities. We've got accessibility happening in parks, which is just endearing. One of my big things when I ran this time was I wanted to see Hollow Mountain Park resurrected, and it's happening. And it's going to be accessible. It's very simple. It costs not a lot. It does cost a bit, but what it will provide, an area that is so far off the main road, right, is going to be immense. So yeah, leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Councillor, you guys should know this. Deputy Warden.
Well, this one's a little bit more difficult.
Just water.
Yeah, so, all right, so where should we focus, direct our focus? So I think it would be sustainable growth, and how to support that. So how can we align ourselves with sustainable growth? I know that kind of really encompasses a huge umbrella, because within that sustainable growth includes infrastructure, includes community projects, working with chambers of commerce, working with hiring a economic development. So it's a real umbrella statement, because we really need to focus on our
Thank you.
which is hard to deal with because it doesn't get the heat and lights that a park gets, or a parking lot or whatever, because you can't see it. Yes, at the end of this project, they'll have a road that is, finished and you can drive on, and it's not like trying to avoid landmines, but you can't see the real work that happens underneath. We continue to have disruptions with water and sewer and so on. I'm glad that we're having water breaks and not sewer breaks. If we want to look at the positive.
Deputy Warden.
What I've heard from residents was, it all depends where you're at. But also when out talking, like, it's the deputy warden, I get a wonderful opportunity to travel and do things throughout the whole county, and it's interesting where you talk to depends on what priorities they have, but they all basically, there's some that are the same, where it's, they want to see growth, they want to see businesses come, and they want to see ways that they can achieve employment and for their family to stay here. They don't want their families to move away. There's nothing wrong with moving away. We just want them to move away short term. Like Council Longmire.
That's true.
So that's what they want to see, and their concern is around infrastructure. Now, unfortunately, when we go to the rural areas, there's a lot less we can control, but we can continue to be a strong advocate for it. You know, I constantly get concerns about Arlington Road and all these other roads that we personally don't control, but we can advocate and work with them. So initiatives and projects we should consider. So continuing to look at development on county-owned land. I'm thinking about Upper Clemens Park. I'm thinking about the possible 40 other properties that we have of the 200 and some odd that we own. We have untapped potential that we're just really sitting on. So the fact that we're looking at doing these things is great. Also, the fact that we're looking at doing an area rate study where it makes things even across the whole county. And there's so many examples for different municipalities of how they look at that of this is your base rate and then based on the services you get. So it makes it equal everywhere you live. So if you're in rural area, you get no service, you pay this rate. The more services you get, potentially pay this. And I think that with that, it would help some of the ownership of those communities where they realize, okay, I have this service, so I pay this service. Right now, a lot of the concern, that I heard on the campaign trail was around area rates. And of course, there's things that you can explain that why there's an area rate completely justifiable. People don't always understand because they compare it to other parts of the county that don't have area rates, that get similar or some services, but they pay this rate. So I'm looking forward to that rate, and I think that's something we should continue to do. And last but not least, hopefully, sooner than later, we have a new Granville Street in Bridgetown. And I know I don't want to harp on Bridgetown. I'm assuming a good portion of us drove through the number 1 today. And getting worse as we move on.
We're going back.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
worst
sorry.
part, yeah. So it's definitely needs to be done, but it's just how we're gonna pay for it. And the fact that we don't have the extra support that we used to have from the province, and now we have to be really tactful in thinking it. It's definitely a necessity, because if not, we're soon gonna get to a point where it's a horse trail, because it's all gravel, and instead of getting a pave, we just need to buy a grader. Which would be easier to fix things. You don't have to bring up, but yeah, it just, when we have places like that the county owns, and we're trying to bring people here, it kind of contradicts itself. And I understand that this area, unfortunately, we own. We have to do something with it. So that's one thing that I think we should focus on. That's all.
Thank you very much. To be awarded, next is Councillor Aguilar, and then it will be Councillor Hare.
I have a lot written down, but I'll try to be brief. A
Oh,
lot of stuff's already been said.
okay.
Doorstep,
Doorstep?
when we were on the doorstep, knocking on doors, campaigning, what did we hear? Non-confidence in council decisions, there were some big blunders made and so on and so forth. Lack of transparency, infrastructure, roads, so on and so forth. These are the things that were concerns of some of my constituents. I'm sure this goes through the province or the county as well. Can't deal with what happened in the past, but we can certainly go forward, and that's why we're here today doing this. Focus points, development, industry, commercial, industrial. This is something, and I think we have some gems within the county that we can work on, particularly Cornwallis Park. And we need to exploit that. There's just so much potential for that. Tourism and recreation. I know that we're working diligently. We now have a tourism personnel, and we have our committee in terms of the marketing levy that's going to be making some inroads as well in that respect. Housing diversity, and we need all kinds of housing, not just, low end, medium, high end. I think, we've made a lot of strides, and we need to continue due diligence in terms of our NPS and LEB planning throughout the county, which is, we've done a lot there, and we continue to do that. Reducing red tape in terms of development, again, that was part of the previous council's plan as well. I think we need to continue to focus on that. And I don't mean to cut corners, I mean, make it more affordable or more equitable or easier for developers to develop and, not get in their way. Reserves, very important. We talked about the reserves. We need to focus on that. We can't provide all the things we'd like to see that we're talking about here today unless we have the money to do it. So I think, we need to establish and maintain mandated reserve policy. Something that we need to do right here, not just if we think we should. Staffing, I think, we haven't really talked about that too much today, but I really am encouraged as to what I've seen in the last 6 to 8 months in terms of our staffing policies, hire the right people for the right job and, insist on getting the right people for the right job. We don't want to be we don't want to be too heavy staff, but we don't want to be too lean as well. In order for the council to make the decision that we do, we rely completely on the staff. And I think we've made some really good inroads in terms of that direction. So as far as projects are concerned, what I have here, of course, is Granville Street. It's I have family that live there, and we have constituents that live there, and it's really bad when they wake up in the morning and they can't take a shower to go to work. And again, this week or next week or last week, it just needs to get done, and I know that we're working diligently to do that. And I just want to assure the people there that we have their best interest, and we were trying our best to get that done. And it's not just that's the big one for us particularly because we live there. But I know we talked about everything in respect to what's important for the whole county. And I'm sure there's other areas in the county that are having just as important issues in there, so we need to work on that as well. So that's the project that I would like to move forward. Thank you.
My tires too. Councillor, thank you.
One thing I'm very appreciative of is looking at the list we've come up so far, is I do think it reflects a lot of what was on the other pages. I know one thing is living within our means. Everybody agrees we should live within our means. And so some of the things, I know recreation is a huge, we all want more recreation and but we need it within our means. We can't go out. Well, like for example, we don't have a $20 million sports facility on there that's not in our means right now. So I guess when I look at those questions, and I have to, where should the county director focus? If I think of recreation, I think looking at our fundamentals and decision-making, we should be looking at better encouragement of the rural recreation we have in Annapolis County. We should be thinking, I hear a lot of people as well, there's not a lot to do around here, like going through high school, I heard a lot of comments, there's not a lot to do around here for young people. Other families that I see in day to day with my kids, so I wish there was more recreation opportunities. I can't go down any part of this county without looking somewheres and thinking, there's somewheres I could be doing something with recreation. There should be better encouragement of things like ATVs, the dirt bikes, the walking, the hiking, skiing. And some stuff that's kind of fading out, and we should be encouraging newcomers to try, like hunting, like fishing, like boating. There isn't a spot in the county where you can't do something recreation-wise. They just need to learn what has been done here for the past 100 years for recreation, and we need to re-encourage it again. So again, that all focus back to, if we're going to direct focus on recreation, let's live within our means. Let's widen our scope of what recreation is. It's not always, a community. It's broader than that.
So we talking about, if I may ask, teaching lessons on fishing and
Stuff like that.
Is that what you're encompassing? Because
That's part of
I
it,
can't,
yes.
not everybody can involved in getting an ATV or whatever. Not a mechanic, breaks down, I'm done.
But hey, that works well with the county because we have numerous small businesses that like to repair those.
I totally. Be able to afford. You have to be able to afford that before you even start thinking about,
But
picture
yes,
reference.
it's
But anyway, my point was, I thought an education.
yes, a very
of
cost.
fishing, how to fish properly.
Yes.
How to do whatever.
And I know
Yeah.
we do a very good job of that with some of the resources we've already got, but I think it could be expanded even further. It's a very cost-effective way I think we can do recreation because it is everywhere. And the communication, I know transparency was listed as an issue going door to door. I don't think it was necessarily they were complaining with transparency. I think it was more they were complaining about the lack of communication. They never hear anything from us. It's always hard because you can't land on the doorstep every time there's something to be said. But for me, I don't know, transparency obviously, but more communication. And if I gotta go back to the priorities where we should direct our focus on what projects, I think we should get done what we have on our list already. We have a lot of stuff on our list, a lot of infrastructure that needs spending. I don't think we should be really looking to expand that massively until what we have is done and dealt with. And then we have a better plan to maintain the infrastructure going forward for the next 20, 50 years. Reserves potentially for, and that maybe a good one is maybe we have more reserves for specific pieces of infrastructure and assets we have within the county. We have dedicated reserves to assets and infrastructure. And then lastly, I'm going to end it off with save money. And it's been saved as it's already been said as bill reserves, but it's more than that. Save money when we can, not necessarily cut every corner that we can and cut our nose off, but we do need to save money. That's it.
Thank you very much. Next is Councillor Oxner, followed by Councillor Connell.
Okay, when I was campaigning, what I heard from my district, they're not happy with sewer tax. They don't understand why they have a sewer tax. That's easy to describe and explain to them. The fact that they don't have to connect to it makes it a little harder and a little more challenging because they're still using their septic. They don't have to connect to the sewer, yet they're still paying for it. Roads were a big issue. the unsightly premises, I'm gonna go back to that again, seems like I'm harping on it. They're not happy with the complaint process, they don't wanna put their name on it because they don't want their neighbors thinking they ratted them out. Not sure if there's anything we can do there, but that was, heard that a lot. Currently, I'm getting calls, many calls and emails about the homeless encampments that we have in behind Lorcon and the playground and whatnot. These encampments were moved out of the town of Middleton and they have landed on my doorstep. And it's not the fact that people are living in tents that's the issue, it's the garbage that's being created and the mess that's being created. And the fear of needles and drug paraphernalia, especially in the vicinity of that playground. So there doesn't seem to be, we don't have a process. The province doesn't even seem to have a process. So we need to look into that and improve that. There's no programs for these people that are accessible here in our county. When I looked at our strategic priorities, I would like to recommend we swap priority 1 and 2. So investing in our infrastructure becomes our number 1 priority, having it down to number 2. Or Bridgetown, yeah. Near that district, and I was getting texts and, inquiries, when's the water gonna be back? Who knows? So I really think that needs to be our first priority. Let's get that fixed. Get the roads fixed. And, the other roads, well, that's the province's responsibility. So all we can do is, support our residents in making it known to the province that there's problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Jeff Jones?
Well, I'll start with what I heard when I was going around my district. My district runs from Lawrencetown through to the Springfield, Southern County line. Lawrencetown really, other than wanting to make sure that their facilities, their area is well represented at the table. They want what other districts want. They want their equal amount to be left out. They pay a community tax. I never heard very little about the community tax. They like their sidewalks plowed. They like their snow picked up and taken away. They understand what they get beyond what a resident on Trunk 10 in Springfield gets. And it's quite a difference. So they're very pleased with how their village and how the village is running and that atmosphere of it. When you start going out Trunk 10, the further you go, communication was the problem. We have a very good flyer that goes on the valley floor. The gentleman not interested to go into Springfield with flyers. I'm sure they don't go to Bear River with them. I'm sure they don't go out Trunk 8 with them. They don't go over to the shore with them, but they're more than willing to do every little nook and cranny up through the valley floor to drop off flyers. But that doesn't include, that excludes. And that's what I'm saying. When we look at projects, look at who it includes, who it excludes. Because that's what I'm hearing. And I'm not the only counselor that's represented and that sat at this table and has said the same thing. Springfield has asked many years why they're part of it. They should be a part of Lunenburg County or Clinton. Because they all do everything in New Germany. Their kids go to school in New Germany, but yet we collect all the taxes. The time I've sat here, we've never contacted the New Germany school to see what we could give a little bit of funding for the kids that go from Springfield for recreation or anything to do with school. More than willing to take their taxes and allow them to send their kids out of our county, but we don't have to worry about them. Those are the issues I heard. Those are the issues that's been coming to this council ever since I've sat here. They do not feel a part of this county. One thing we did do, in my mind, correct, we stood our ground as 11 councillors. Because some of that load's put onto the councillor on how he wants to or she wants to represent that district. So every week I run the flyers to the Springfield store. Every week I drive down to our parks, to see how our parks are doing. Every week, I drive every dirt road that I've had calls on that need to be graded and upgraded. I do my part. But it takes, if I had a bigger district than what I have, it wouldn't get there. It wouldn't get done. Things wouldn't get done. So I'm glad we stayed at 11 councillors for that reason. When I look at what projects we should do and how we should go forward, I'm 100% for the remarks made on, we have recreation in our county that you gotta step outside the box and think that it's recreation. Recreation is different in everyone's minds. We have, our county is covered with water. I've never seen our county promote fishing in 25 years. I got a grandkid that's turned 6, and he can't wait to get to the brook to go fishing. Caught over his limit. You know what? How do you tell a little kid to throw fish back? But the problem is that we have Great Lakes that have really good bass fishing in, but we don't promote them. We have a river that shad runs up every year, starting the 1st of May. And the only town that promotes shad in Annapolis County is Mount.
Yeah.
We do not even mention that we have one of the liveliest shad fishing for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I can tell you, if you want to see something amazing, wait till the end of shad fishing season, kayak down this river. Because you'll think you can walk on it. They won't bite. I can guarantee you they won't bite because they're coming back from spawning and they won't bite. The river's covered. It's, you think you'd be able to get out of the canoe and walk on it. But it's amazing, but we do not promote some of our natural recreation that we have. We promote our trails. We don't promote motorized trails as much as we should. But that industry alone brings a phenomenal amount of money into our county. And I know the Trail Society is working hard on making sure their bridges pass a certain level. Their trails are coated with gravel at a certain time. So I know they're working drastically at that. I think myself, if we promoted our trails, walking trails and our stuff like that it's an investment this county gets put into with taxpayers' money, but we're not encouraging the promotion part of it as well as we should. And so I think that we can do a better job at that. We have come a long ways with communication. That was one of the things I heard, especially when you get out in the rural community, is that people don't, and we've tried flyers and we've tried everything, and there's always going to be the complaints we don't communicate, but we have done a lot better. Our reserves is definitely one of the things that I'd like to see build up, because myself, I can't imagine even looking at high-end infrastructure on our recreation facilities unless we have something to put toward it. It's getting costly, and we need some reserves for help. I think our housing is important. I think that in our strategic plan, are working forward on housing, affordable housing. I think looking at where we can extend our water and sewer, and that's everywhere in the county. I mean, we've tried before, but obviously there's a reason why Greenwood didn't want us to add into it, because they knew what was coming, we didn't. So, I mean, and I know we're coming to the table late to do that, because a lot of infrastructure is in the East End. Everyone's already on their own sewer, and if we think Nick Dahlgren, put in a new septic system coming down from the East End and tell everyone, oh yeah, you don't have to own company, you're paying anyway. We would have a lot more on our table. So it makes it hard to turn the table late with infrastructure and that kind of thing. I feel for the roads that we inherited, the infrastructure we inherited through the dissolution. It definitely, in my mind, if it ever happened again with another town, we better stand our ground better, because I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. The infrastructure's worn out. Now it's on the taxpayers. And I'm not disagreeing, it needs to be fixed. We have other roads in our county that are just as bad, but for years we sat around this table and was told that you're only looking down the road and we're gonna have something. Well, I don't know if any ever drove through Middletown this month. It's just as bad as Bridgetown. So I mean, we've gotta at least keep an eye out that, you know, we may inherit down the road. We gotta be prepared a little bit for that, at least knowledge and stuff. One of the big things I have is that we discussed it a couple of weeks ago here at this table, is that we always thought maybe we should have a new municipal building. But I'm telling you, the Bridgetown Public Works, it's gotta be settled. And we gotta make a decision where it's gonna be, and we gotta make plans and work for it. Because again, if that facility was owned by the private sector, our own county inspection would have it closed. So it's pretty sad that we can't take care of our own. And so to me, that is a priority project that I think should be high on the docket, is to make sure that our own staff have proper washrooms, proper lunchroom, proper facility to go in and have to go to work at. So I think that's high on one of my priorities would be, is that us get public works that we can get a plan in place and work forward on where it's gonna be, what it's gonna be. I'm not disagreeing with the stretch on the Bridgetown Road being fixed. The only thing I'm still not sold on, 2 sidewalks. I'm not sold on any sidewalks. If we need the road fixed that bad, why aren't we just fixing the road? Why aren't we forgetting about moving the poles back, fix the road? Because we haven't even got an estimate yet on this table to tell us what it's gonna cost fully to do the whole thing. So maybe it has to be piecemealed. Maybe it has to be that we do the infrastructure and the road surface and the both sidewalks come down the road further. It's a gain living within our means. And I know that people around this table don't like to hear area rates. But my people in Springfield don't care about sidewalks in Bridgetown. They care about at least getting some little in there. So we all represent different areas. We all stand our ground and try to communicate with everybody on what our area would like to have and what's needed in our areas. But we all gotta look at what we can afford. What I got.
Okay, very much, Councillor Bond. Next is, oh, that's where you step in there,
Well,
Councillor Parsons.
yeah, without repeating a whole lot, we've come up with a pretty good list there. I have housing and infrastructure. Which comes first? When you're talking growth? I think our existing infrastructure definitely needs some work. But if moving forward, infrastructure and housing in the right areas, of course, putting the agriculture hat on, we need to protect our rural land, for the farmers, of course. Recreation, sky's the limit in Annapolis County. We have a lot of beautiful backyard spaces that could be utilized. And, balancing the budget.
I agree. Thank you very much for that. Next will be Councillor Welsh and then Councillor Oxner.
I'm not gonna repeat it.
Oh, no, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So I apologize, Councillor Welsh. Councillor Hardy is first, then
Very quick.
Councillor Welsh.
Thank you. Skipped over me. I just, in our existing strategic priority, number 5, investing in partnerships. And, this is just something that I wouldn't necessarily want to see put by the wayside. I think it would be important to continue to build alliances and partnerships with neighboring municipalities as well as community groups, organizations and clubs. Continuing to have that as a priority, I think is important because, you know, Board of Trades, organizations, Lions clubs, it kind of ties in and into the community halls, but continuing to foster those relationships and continuing to build those alliances with those groups, I think is beneficial for us and helps us create opportunities for all sorts of initiatives and things that can happen in the community. So I think that's an important one. I'll take those. We'll tack that on there.
Good, I did it. Thank you very much. Sorry, I jumped over you for a second there. The glasses went on and then everything worked. Councillor Welsh, you're up. Sorry about cutting you off.
Thank you. I'm not gonna repeat everything else that everybody else has already offered. I think we've covered a lot of things. Just sitting here thinking though about recreation and what some of the other councillors have mentioned. On our own graphic, we have this beautiful river that runs through the middle of it. And for some reason, I feel like it's underutilized within our community. So
Yeah.
is there some, and it connects so many of us through our communities. Would it be possible in the next few years to lend some thought towards some sort of partnership to review this asset we have in our community for some level of development, whether that's economic or recreation? So just as a thought, right? It's literally, it's one of those things, sometimes you miss it because it's so front and center. But maybe there's an opportunity there for us. Just a thought.
Very good. Oxner, you're up.
I love recreation off my comments. I feel, as someone who grew up here in the valley, there was a fishing pole in our back porch. There were snowmobiles in our yard. Not everyone who lives here now can do that. Society now needs more guidance, I think, than it did a couple decades ago. Do we need to spend a lot of money doing programs? No. But I think we need to make connections. Can Sport Nova Scotia utilize some of our assets to provide, whether they're day-long how-tos or a weekend or a week, and start utilizing all these wonderful facilities we have, draw people here. Give the people who've moved here the opportunity to enjoy it. And they need guidance. Thank you.
I agree. We talked about, we talked about the youth. We talked about the halls, and somewhere in here, I want to use the word youth groups. And the halls are starting to start with youth groups, which is a benefit to not only the children, but it can also be a benefit for the hall as well as the parents. As we learned on the weekend or last week, in SFM, there's a group that they started the youth group for parents, as we talked about. It's not all parents that can do the drive, go there, drop them off, and then have to go back and get them. And so they also set up something for, there's a youth group in one area, the parents can stay and they can focus on something else. That'd be just talking or learning about the different activities that they could join, or start a club for knitting or whatever. So I don't know how that's going to be communicated, but I know that somewhere in there I wanted, I'm running down the line and I'm thinking I better say it now before I forget. So that is something that, because I've seen the youth group coming up in my district, I think that is something that we should definitely, have the halls include something like that. We are done for this one. Nope, why not? Oh, you snuck in. Just
Very quick, and I hate to, it's just, it's gonna eat at me if I don't mention it. On the recreation, really quick, I think it is targeting the underutilized recreation opportunities we have in the county, like fishing, hunting, motorized sports. Understanding why more people aren't getting into them, the barriers they have to getting into them, like for motorized recreation, they don't know how to maintain them, they don't know where to, I guess buy them, but not necessarily, but they don't necessarily know how to maintain them, where to go with them, and how to help them overcome them obstacles, how to help them get into hunting, get into fishing. So that would be kind of a more narrow goal for recreation. It would eat at me if I didn't say it.
done. Thank you. We are on to the next one.
All right, thank you. So that was great discussion. I think, I have 6 pages of notes. Sarah captured a lot, and I know everybody else that's in the room will have captured bits and pieces. So I think that we'll be able to really take everything that's been discussed, kind of put it together and come back for further discussion. And hopefully you'll see all of the comments. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our current plan. So just a reminder that the current plan was approved in September of 2023. And as I said before, it's important that we review a strategic plan on a regular basis. They are living documents. There is things that in every plan that you'll find out, as mentioned previously, that some things we can't do or can't do the way we thought we might have wanted to do them. Some things we've ticked off already, and then there's other things that are probably longer items, so it'll take a little bit of time. So the current strategic plan priorities that we have has 37 action items included. And so basically the senior staff have gone through this probably a month ago now, I guess. And we looked at each of the items. I would say 14 items have been, or would be considered complete. That might change to 1 or 2 based on some discussions I've had. 13 items have had some work completed, so they're partially completed. In some cases, that's because it's a longer project, it will take a longer time. In other cases, it might be that we've been able to do a part of the item, but we might not be able to do another part of the item. We'll talk about that. And then there's 10 items that have not been started, some of which are on a future plan that we will start. And then there's others that we'll have some discussion about why they haven't been started. So in our current strategic plan, which you all have, the 5 strategic priorities that we have in our current strategic plan are investing in housing and housing infrastructure, investing in our community infrastructure, investing in countywide community facilities, investing in our people, and investing in partnerships. So basically, I want, when we walk through some of these, things that I'd like you to keep in mind as we discuss each of the items. So first of all, financial resources. There's certain things that you gotta think about, those kind of hidden resources sometimes. So, you know, the next one, staffing resources. So if there's an item that we want to do, somebody has to do it. So if you don't have someone that's part of their job, then that affects the first one, financial resources. So with each of the items, we need to consider financial and staffing resources. And then similar vein, a return on investment for time and money. So again, we have to make sure that based on our discussion here today and what we said as priority, we need to really get some in front of the others to say, we're gonna do this first, and then if we can do that one, then we'll move on to the next thing. And some things will happen all at once again. And we do have limited resources. I've heard pretty loud and clear today, and I've been hearing that as we've been talking since I've been here, that you know, we have to be very cognizant of what our resources are, realizing that we don't have a big bag of money that we can do whatever we want. We have to be very aware of that and focus on what we can do and figure out how we can move forward with things that maybe we can't do right now. So again, there are a couple of items currently that we basically don't have anyone to necessarily complete. And adding items takes away from other focus. So again, the more items you have on a strategic plan, the harder it is to complete them all. So, you know, it's not always a bad thing to have a very narrow focus of, you know, a smaller number of items, but say, hey, and I think a couple of you mentioned that, to say, hey, let's get these ones done and done really well. And then we'll kind of look at what comes next. So I'm just going to walk through the 37. Some of them will be very quick because they're very quick discussion or not discussion. And then if there's things that you'd like to pause, discuss further, maybe just let the board know. So, and again, they're in order, the same as they are in your strategic plan. So the investing in housing was the first section. And each one had somewhere between 7 and 10 items in each of them. So the first one was the municipality will inventory all available lands as well as those privately owned can be easily serviced with municipal water, water and or sewer services. This information will be made available on our website. So as we've talked about, this is a project we're working on right now. We are looking at all of our lands. Some of it will fall into this, that we can say, hey, here's an opportunity. I just got an email this morning to go to a provincial section related to municipal land. Again, they're kind of doing what they did a couple of years ago to look at opportunities. So we'll attend that discussion on that. So I would say that we've done some work on this one. And there's still more work to do. The next one, we'll work with Annapolis Basin Conference Center with another nonprofit, Wallace Park, and other areas to upgrade, enhance, extend. So we haven't done anything per se on this. Now, you know, even from the time that the strategic plan was put together till now, a lot of things have changed. So as you know, most of the property there has been sold off to private corporations or individuals. There's still lots of work that we can do there. There's still discussions on what's available and what's not available. So there's basically things that I would say it's something that we leave on for further discussion, but we probably need to narrow the focus a little bit and refocus it a little bit because it's not necessarily that space and conference center.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Councillor Welch.
If I may, one of the issues that was brought up when I was campaigning was the quality of the water in Cornwallis Park, usually due to old piping. So I'm thinking that at some point, to be proactive, we should probably do a review of our infrastructure in that area, just to make sure that we're not running into a similar situation that we have in Bridgetown, where we're chasing repairs as opposed to being proactive.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you. I just noticed, so on number 2, there's something missing from the slide there, where it says Bear River will be the first community in 2024.
Hmm.
Because if that's the case, then number 2 will be a partial.
All right, we completed.
After 100 years, we have municipal water in Bear River.
Yes.
Amazing.
Uh,
It's very appreciated.
But, yeah, but on page 10, sorry, on the common at Cornwallis Park, this one kind of slipped through the fingers in some ways. It was partially a missed opportunity in some ways, I think, with the conference center, but, Cornwallis Park is a huge opportunity. And hopefully we'll start seeing some of that someday. If not, I believe that it still should be a strategic plan of ours to work that area. Because there is a lot of things that is going for that area. So that area, I'm not as concerned with underground infrastructure. Because a good portion of it was actually replaced in the late 80s, early 90s. When they redid the steam lines before the base closed. But a lot of the water condition was to do with the flushing of the system. Because there is a lot of buildings on there that's not utilizing water when they get turned on. So I don't know if we're flushing the systems there as much as we used to, but it's not completely beneficial if people at the end of that line, like in 34-3, 34-4, all these other buildings, if they're not turning on water, or if they even have copper, then it defeats the purpose. So it's just an untapped potential that we will see something.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Anyone?
and that the CAO pointed out that I have that one out of order, that's why it's different than mine. That one's number 10. That's my bad. So the next one, support builders, contractors, developers, residents, and businesses who are willing to invest in Adams County today with new housing. We would guarantee a 3-day turnaround time for all fully completed building permit applications, 95% of the time. We will refund all building and zoning permits if construction is completed in 12 months. So I would say that certainly we've had discussion about this one. A 3-day turnaround time, and I don't know where this one necessarily came from. It depends on how you're defining a building permit. So, if you come in for something pretty basic, it might be that it can happen. If you're coming in to build a house, not going to be a 3-day turnaround time. It's a process, right? So, just the wording of this one, like, of course, we want to be as effective and efficient as we possibly can. But it's hard when you say, well, 3 days is quite quick. Unless you're talking something very, very minor. And again, building permit application 95% of the time, it's hard to say whether that's when you might be going over or under based on adding numbers to that. So again, I agree that there probably should be something to do this. And there's another one on here too about permitting that. Again, you gotta think about that, the cost of this, right? So if we were to hold ourselves to this, then I have to come back to you and say, okay, we need additional staffing, so that we can do that. So we have to be somewhat aware that everything has a cost. So if this is I'm still not sure 3-day possibility, but if we want to get that lower and lower, then that needs resources.
Any questions? Councillor Hare and Councillor Welsh?
Surprisingly enough, turnaround time on permit applications, I've heard very positive things about this county. Maybe I'm just the only one that hears that, but I have heard people kind of on the line, they say, oh, Kings County takes forever, but we've had great luck here in Annapolis County. I know when I got my building permit for my house, I had county staff telling me I needed to go faster. So.
Did you?
I did. I think I waited to the very last minute. We got a lot more goals and objectives to go through here for 37. So to me, if we're trying to consolidate our list, narrow our focus, I'm not sure this is something we necessarily need to have in the strategy. I do think we need to be cognizant of it, of our turnaround times. But I don't necessarily know that I don't necessarily know if this needs to be on there. I think it's just making our list longer for not necessarily much reason. I'd be in favor of having that one removed. The refund for building and development if construction is completed within 12 months of initial application. I mean, it's great for the developers. I don't know if the pros of that are better than the cons of that with decreased revenue to the county, because I don't necessarily think we're going to see a huge influx of development permits just for the sole purpose of if it's within 12 months of the initial application. So I'd be in favor of consolidating your list and not having it on there at all. Maybe I'm the only one. I'll put that in.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Welsh?
I'm just wondering if this relates to number 9 on page 11. We had hoped to have some sort of digital system in place to help streamline the whole process. If that was the hopes through that, without having that extra staff. And if so, where we are in that process.
I'll get there when we get to number 9.
That's what, it just feels like it's directly correlates there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you have any word?
I agree with Councilor Hare that I don't think it even needs to be there. And because we do have a great department, and I haven't heard, you hear things, but when you follow, it's not always the case where you hear things about things that are delayed. In most cases, it's the clients that are delaying some of the things. Like Mr. Hare,
As he admitted.
but even with the comments, and I don't remember this part, this strategic last time, but it all depends what you're building. The likelihood of the permit being, you applying for the permit, and then you're issued occupancy permit within 12 months in today's world is slim to none.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I don't think it's relevant. Other than we're providing lip service, which I just think we should strike.
Which could cost projects.
Yeah.
Just to add my 2 cents, I mean, there's nobody else saying anything. I don't remember that either, and realistically, I don't see how that can be done, and that will be a cause for more problems down the line, is what I see. Oh, sorry, did I miss you?
No,
Oh, good. Phew.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, I don't believe either that PUPS is really needed. I think more importantly, it's education. I think there are people who move to a new province, county, whatever, and they're confused or, right? They don't know the steps, and I go back and I think about recreation and how, and Remo does it as well, at the exhibition, has a booth that showcases, recreation. And I think, a fair, an opportunity where all of these great, wonderful things once a year could be hosted somewhere in maybe, throughout the county. Change it every year to a different site or a different hall or a different fire hall. So it would have to be larger than that, I suspect. But, that's the accessibility piece, that's the inclusion piece, that's the new developer's desire, is to find the information. There are people who are taking on renovations on their properties and not getting permits. Or are hiring contractors that aren't actually red seal and aren't doing honest work. It's happening. And so then it's by hit or miss that they are reported, the process gets longer and longer. But again, everyone needs to know all of the information in one place. And is it convenient to come into an office that's already busy with day to day, right? Rather than offering an out and community opportunity, right? There's just a lot of questions around permits all the time. I hear it all the time in my district. Yeah. It'll reduce the errors. It reduces the manpower to look after the errors and make the corrections and go back out again for another, review. It supports the newcomers, right? And whether it's big business building big high rises or someone just doing a modest addition to their property, such as a deck, it answers lots of questions. More proactive than reactive. Thanks.
Thank you. For the second time, Deputy Ward, and then for the second time.
Very quick, because I think
Councilor
we're spending a lot of time on this one, but it was a good point about an education piece. And what I thought of is examples that keep getting provided to us time and time again, mostly from people that move to Annapolis County from outside of the county, where they rely 100% on the realtor.
Mhm.
And I just wonder if there's something that we can provide as an outreach, maybe it doesn't have to be part of this, but to give to the Realtor Association or something saying, this is,
A YouTube video.
yeah, this is where you go to get the information, because, but at the same time, if a realtor really wants to sell a house, it happens. But I think that's a big thing around is the education piece. And hopefully, when people go to look at buying a house and they know that this is what they want to do and where they want to move, that they would contact the municipality. I know that's what I did 15 years ago. I contacted the municipality with questions around zoning and stuff, because I didn't want to get myself trapped into something that I couldn't do. So that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you. And there is definitely a possibility with our sessions that we're gonna start in each community to have a table directly on this planning piece, and we will have one, no doubt. Okay, so I have Oxner on my list. She hasn't spoken yet. Did you okay,
So, talking about permits and whatnot goes to communications. People hate going to our website and trying to find the information. So, I made the comment in the YouTube video and everybody chuckled. They're gonna watch a 2-minute YouTube video on what the steps are before they're gonna go searching our site.
oh, yes.
No, and I know our warden would be more than willing to do that.
Be the star of the video.
Councillor Oxner?
I don't think you have another opportunity to.
No, I think I'll-
You're done. Sure, I will be happy to do that.
We'll all watch it.
Councillor, yes, Councillor Hare.
Just to stay on the topic
You
of
witnesses.
reviewing the goals, is this the time where if we want to remove stuff,
Yes.
have a vote?
No,
You don't want that?
I don't want votes today, if that's okay. We're
Okay.
to really, I mean, I think what you see too, like instead of just saying, let's get rid of this one, what, because I think based on what you just discussed, there's elements there that we need to consider. So I think what it's best, I want to hear your discussion today, and when we come back, make sure that everything that we've talked about is reflected in this discussion. So that, because I think what we would do, just off the top of my head, is craft something for this one to say, like turnaround time is very important. So what can we do to measure it, make sure as quick as we can, make sure that we're keeping that information so that we know that at minimum, we're not getting slower. And hopefully at best, we're getting faster with the resources that we have.
And just on that comment, all very good. Although I'm not even certain if that needs to be in the 37 things. I think that's just
operations might be.
I think it's just operations, we haven't necessarily had a problem, and it's just, I feel as if we need to consolidate our list, again, it was in the first slide, we need to consolidate things, because I imagine there's gonna be additions even, so. And those elements could be worked into other parts of other goals, easy enough. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. I don't ever remember the 3 days. Do you? You?
Not always. I would think that would be
No,
realistic.
so, four of us here,
Jesse.
30 days?
Right?
What?
I said, I'm with Jesse, it would take me a month to correct anything I've done.
Okay, next, we're going to the next one.
Okay, so the next one, and again, if I have these ones for the first section out of order, that's my apologies. So the next one was to support the development of new housing throughout Annapolis County, the municipality developed a plan of extending water and sewer services to its communities. The priority given to extending these services first to those areas where we see developers commit to building houses. Bear River would be the first community in 2024. So again, this would be a partial one, of course. We have completed the water in Bear River, so that side of it is done. And again, this would be an ongoing one that we will have, is to continue to look at where we could or should expand our services.
Any comments, questions, Councillor Welch?
How far along are we looking at other areas that for development?
Can refine. I'm not sure where you're asking.
Well, when I was in Deep Brook, there was concern about the sewer extension happening there because a lot of them aren't able to tie in, but they would still be charged frontage. So there's, just because we have the ability to do the extension, what we're doing with the residents is to ensure that that's a need that actually exists in that neighborhood or community.
Yeah, I'll speak to that very briefly, and I can ask Paula to chime in as well. Deep Brook's a very unique situation because of the way it runs on the, we've had a lot of discussion about what that looks like and whether or not how we should be including them or not including them related to frontage, because it's kind of weird.
Yeah, because some of them, they've gotten quoted to 30,000 to tie into the system. And they have a perfectly operating system already in place. So,
I mean, I would say, and this is kind of the push and pull that you have with adding infrastructure. You want to add infrastructure, you need the funds, which then ideally, everybody, the people that can benefit from it should pay for it. So again, a number of you have said it today, it shouldn't come from general rates, it should come from fees. So then you look at sewer, right? I mean, and water's the same. Which is why there's usually that fee, whether or not you're connected or not. It's to encourage people to join, because, so you can, and there's a benefit. So whether it's in your house and you can connect to it, someone down the road might say, oh, great, I can connect to it, whether or not it's you. So it's a tricky one. I would, and I know we've talked briefly about sewer at times, like it would be very hard to go away from a sewer rate, whether you're using it or not. Because the whole point is to charge the rate to encourage use, to encourage connection.
I know it's better for the community as opposed to the outlier, but it's the outliers you're gonna hear.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connell.
And I hope part of this is that we still look at making arrangements with other municipal units for growth in areas outside of the village, outside of the town of Middleton. Because I'm still being asked about going that it's fine. We have sewer extended or water
There's sewer.
Sewer, I think.
Yeah.
and no water. So I'm still having people that own lands there, people that are living on that stretch saying, well, our municipality gonna put the water line up here too, so we can have water. So if we're gonna look at areas, we definitely want to count in that it's gotta be focused on all across our county, not just lands the county or the sewer systems the county owns. We have to look at, lands that's within the county, but outside the other municipal units.
Hmm. Okay, next is Councillor Hare.
Try to be quick. So this is under strategy 31. For housing and housing infrastructure. I understand it's housing infrastructure, but I just wonder if some of this stuff couldn't be consolidated under the second strategy, investing in our community infrastructure. I mean, it seems very similar. Just I'll leave that comment there. And then the other comment on.
So basically, you're looking to see if we can't combine some of these together.
Yeah,
Okay.
The infrastructure stuff.
Mhm.
And the comment on extending services. I agree, it is an ask, so it probably does have a spot here on our list. But before infrastructure is installed, there definitely needs to be communication with areas that are gonna get serviced, because I know if I went through like Wilmot, I come to them and said, okay, you're sewer through and you're paying for it, they're probably gonna be very happy. I'd want there to be some sort of communication with the communities that are potentially getting sewer and water. And if more than that, we are a democracy, if more than half the people, like say Wilmot, say, nope, we don't want sewer and water because you already got it. We are a democracy and they should be listened to.
Thank you. And that's it for the list, and unless there's anybody else. Okay, perfect.
Okay, the next one in the fall and winter of 23-24, the municipality will develop and consider creation of large scale housing development in the lands of theme park, which will require investment in the modern runs, et cetera, et cetera. So this one's been marked as incomplete basically because this was a plan that we would develop Upper Highlands Park, and as more recent discussions, as of even last month, we were looking to put that out again for a request for proposals. So
Mhm.
again, this one's really it was written this way, but that's not what we're doing.
Any comments on that? I don't know who was first. He was? Okay, Councillor.
Are we able to get an update on where that RFP is being developed and when the timeline for when it might be released?
I would just say it's being developed.
Being worked on.
Yeah, I was working on it on Friday actually, so I would say within a week or two, hopefully you'll have it ready to go. We'll let you know.
Thank you so much.
That's my intended target.
Okay, thank you. Next, Councillor Donald.
I'm just gonna state the fact is that this county has never been fantastic at landlords. Landlord fee or whatever. It's something that, we shouldn't be involved with. I'm all for encouraging contractors and contractors as far as building and help them as far as selling property that we have, but we definitely don't need to get here.
I've heard that comment a few times. Thank you very much. Councillor Hare?
Just to be quick, this seems like a very site-specific goal in our strategy. I didn't know how many other site-specific goals there, but just would be my comment is I don't necessarily know if the site-specific goal belongs in like a strategy, like the one above it is the east end. The other spots were like upper, Cornwallis, like there were areas. It just seems site-specific to have in general.
But this site is owned by the candidate.
Yeah, it's still, anyway.
This is. We have to ask.
Anything else? No, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on.
Thank you. So in the fall of 2024, the municipality will make available to developers and builders detailed community demographic information and property data, no cost, to assist with determining local needs and housing residents' ability to pay for various levels of housing. And this is So the next ones, if no comments, the next one was the municipality will create a new 10-year municipal planning strategy and use bylaw for Annapolis County that will allow for accessory dwellings on all appropriate site lots. Again, I won't read the entire thing, but this one has been.
Next,
Next, the municipality will continue to work with potential private sector developers to advocate for the establishment of more long-term care, nursing home, residential care and assisted living facilities in Annapolis County to allow our residents to continue to reside in their own community close to family and friends for their later years. So I have that marked as incomplete. There has been some developments obviously in that area, but not anything that we've actively worked on.
any comments? No, Councilor Connell?
I know it's not our jurisdiction, but it's a shame to see that the province has put some fantastic senior development places down through our whole county, no matter if it's in the towns or whatever. And now they've decided because it's unfair, they're moving low-income people into the same subdivisions or the same facilities. The one going the Fitch Road started out to be a senior's place, and now there's low income and social assistance, and there's conflict there. Some of the seniors feel very unsafe at times because of the drug use and the alcohol use and the verbal abuse. And now, over the past few years, we learned the new facility in Middleton. They're starting to allow low-income people to move in that brand new safe
Yeah.
senior community. So I'm not against low-income having areas to live, but when you build a safe surroundings for seniors to go to, no matter if it's assisted living or what it is, and then all of a sudden the project changes or the overview changes and you're allowing different types of living styles to live in the communities. It's going against what we wanted to achieve. I think that the seniors or the places where assisted living people are, they're looking for safety as much as living there. So I think if we're advocating or any of that, even at the Bridgetown, the facility that they're closing and moving to the new one, but they're keeping the assisted living or courts. It'll be a shame that if all of a sudden they fill the rest of the building with low income and all of a sudden there's that conflict of lifestyle. Safety for the ones that are living there. I think we just have to be aware, considerate of that.
Yes. Could cause a big problem. Anybody else? Councilor Hare?
Sorry to drag this on. When I see these lists, I would like to see it be something achievable and
Yeah.
just looking at this particular one, the municipality continue to potential private sector develops to advocate. What is the possible outcome of this? Like, what could have been done and what could be done to make that considered complete? I'm just trying to think as a municipality, how you can actually complete that. And just, if we can't answer that question, then I don't know if it's right to be on there.
Okay, Councilor Longmire?
Yeah, so I know back a couple of years ago, we had met with David, an organization group that was looking to put a hospice inn down in Cornwallis Park. To this date, I haven't heard any more about that, although the need is truly huge. I'm kind of like with Councillor Hare, I'm not quite sure, like, to potentially help private sector developers. I know McLeod's was looking to build a new facility, and at the time, the conversation was that they were gonna be, neck to neck with the hospice and place a new facility down in Cornwallis Park. Again, I don't hear or haven't heard, and certainly haven't learned of any further developments with that. It would be interesting to know what that initial group that had fundraised and were looking at putting that hospice down there. But as far as long-term care and nursing home and residential care beds, those are not up for anyone just to go purchase. I mean, that is designed by Department of Seniors and Long-Term Care, and the beds move around, and there's serious criteria in order to be able to be an owner of those facilities. So I don't know quite how, other than land masses and offering, as we did, with the Mountain Meadows, of course, making sure infrastructures and things are there. That's about all that we can achieve, out of that. So I'm not sure how that's any kind of a goal that we could set.
But it could have been part of
That plan.
mountains and meadows.
Yeah, for sure, yes, but certainly. So, yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. Confusing, I don't remember that conversation on that.
Any other statements or comments or? Okay, we're moving on.
Okay, the next one is the municipality will establish a federal, indigenous, provincial, municipal banking law. Banking Housing Community Advisory Committee, that will meet with interested builders and developers to review available funding programs, provide assistance in completing applications for funding, and support developer and builder needs for financing options. So again, this is not something that we have acted on. This would be one, there's a very good idea. It's a little bit about who would be responsible for doing it, and would we be able to bring those other partners to the table on a regular basis to meet with developers. I would say that would be very, very difficult to do on a regular basis.
Okay, Deputy Warden.
Thanks. I don't remember this one. And it's concerning to me. There's a few on here so far that some of the prior councillors, myself included, are saying, don't remember that one. Now, a lot was going on in 2023, but I don't remember having a conversation around this committee. And once it was put in there, it was never talked about again. We did talk about it. Just, how could we even do that? That's all I want to say. That's it.
Okay, I will comment. So who was first?
Ed.
Councilor Agenberger?
Well, this speaks specifically to the bullet points that you had mentioned at the outset, Mr. CAO, regarding financial resources, staffing resources, return on investment, limited resources. I mean, that right there personifies those particular points. Who would do it? And whose responsibility would it be to get it, to pull that together? I mean, it's a good idea, but it seemed to me a little bit unrealistic to be part of the strategic plan to actually implement that.
Thank you, Councilor Agenberger. Councilor Hare?
It's just, we're gonna repeat that, let's be realistic with what we have on this list. I don't see this being realistic, not to mention how it would even work. This is a committee, but then it's gonna be a service that's provided year round. It sounds like there's a committee and then staff members. Anyway, I don't see this being something on there. This will get left on there.
I would say that I can't remember the exact timing of it, but I know that there was an application for the Housing Accelerator Fund, at least once, if not twice. So some of these, may have been considered, if we were to get Housing Accelerator Fund, we would be able to invest in some of these. Because I would say, without additional resources, this would be an item that would basically possible to do. So it may have been considered as if we were to get housing accelerator funds, we'd be able to. So it's-
That makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
exactly where I was going, because I'm thinking, we did discuss this, and I can't remember why, but there it is.
Big enough county that it makes sense to invest in the permitting software, based on the number of permits that we do. Right, so that's where we're kind of sitting with this one right now, is that if it is something we want to go to, then we need to consider the future, costs of that, which, you know, not necessarily in here, but we can certainly let you know what that looks like.
Okay. Well, I mean, we want to save money, I don't think anybody has this against. Answer Welsh.
Just a quick question, would that reduce the number of staff or we'd still have the same number of staff?
I would suspect it would reduce the number of staff. I mean, we're, you know, the
Yeah.
department
It's
is.
slim, it's
Yeah,
slim.
He gave you the.
There was an evil eye coming.
You know, there's, I would say from a staffing perspective, like, again, I think a couple of you mentioned that we don't want to be overstaffed, we don't want to be understaffed.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, you know, we're probably on the razor edge of being a bit understaffed. Based on what we're doing. So, you know, sometimes even you add software, it becomes different skill sets. So it might, you know, there could potentially even be times that you'd have to have additional staff for a period of time to help people walk through using online systems.
Absolutely.
And then some people will say, I'm not doing it online, I still want to come in and do a with paper,
Yeah.
which, you know, so then you need those staff as well.
I appreciate staff looking into this, but it does feel a bit unrealistic for a rural municipality.
I would say, like, so this is, to me, you know, so based on some of the numbers, you know, I think it would be a bit of a stretch for us to do it all. This may be something where, you know, we can talk to NSFM, we can talk to AMANS, we can talk to other partners to see if there's ways that we can do stuff together.
Yeah.
Because there is, you know, I mean, apart from the largest rural municipalities, not a lot would have this type of system. Which, you know, but there's a lot of us that are kind of in that smaller to mid-level, that would probably like to have a system like this, so maybe there's partnership opportunities.
I like that idea.
Okay, Councillor Hare.
If staff haven't necessarily identified this as being an issue, I don't know if this needs to be on this list. We might be able to be cognizant of it going forwards, but if it's not an identified issue, then see this list short.
Anybody else? Seeing none? We're done this first section.
All right,
So before we start the second section, it is 12:30. Do we have a time limit? We do, because you do have another commitment. So what are we gonna do? Are we gonna move on and do one more, or are we gonna stop?
Keep going.
Or are we gonna put a limit that we go till 1 o'clock and stop? Because at this moment, if the way we're going,
We're not gonna finish.
we're not finishing this today, and the CAO has another commitment this afternoon at 1 o'clock.
Let's go to one.
Go to one.
One for the one.
How many say, let's go to 1,
Mhm.
Okay, we're done. I all agree, that was easy. Yeah.
All right, so the first one in the priority 2 section, so investing in our community infrastructure, so we will plan for, design, and work with other levels of government, like Bear First Nation, municipality, district, Bigby, and Community Bear River, to develop and install a new modern water system for Bear River, so this one would be considered. So again, just so you're aware, I mean, any of the, when we bring this back, any of the ones that are complete, we will remove that if we updated. Strategic plan. The next one is to provide better quality, to increase the current water system pressure. The municipality will upgrade the water system along Highway 201 between Annapolis Royal and Lake Road, including Hillside Drive in partnership with the town of Annapolis Royal. So this one we've marked as, I think we marked as partially complete. Hillside has been done. There's still a little bit of work to do on across the road. I'll leave that one. Yeah. So that one's, it's moving.
Mhm.
The next one is an effort to ensure the long-term sustainability of the municipal water system in Granville Ferry, Annapolis Royal, and Kiel. The municipality will first design and construct a new water tower and water system in Granville Ferry. So this one we have marked as partial. We have done the study, I believe, but we haven't obviously purchased a new water tower. You would remember that number.
I'd like to see green and yellow.
Mhm.
Green and yellow is good.
So loss of power is a regular occurrence and its negative impacts on all of our communities is widespread throughout Annapolis County. To support as many communities as possible, the municipality will establish a community facility generator program with funding up to $2,500 for small facilities and $5,000 for large. So this one has been completed. We do have that policy in place. The next one, the county's east end has the greatest and soonest potential for new housing development. In order to advance these private sector developments and to show our commitment to community growth in the east end of Annapolis County, the municipality will contract for the creation of detailed water and sewer infrastructure design work in areas adjacent to Kings County like Meadowvale, Laurent, and Albert Square, as well as those communities adjacent to Middleton such as Minton, plan for future housing growth and where commitments are made for substantial new housing projects to invest in the required infrastructure to support this happening. So I would say that in this one, the study has been completed, subdivision policy updates are needed to allow support for developers. So as we've had some discussion about that as well, so maybe not quite as direct as we may have thought when this particular item went into a strategic plan. That's not to say that we can't find ways to invest. It's just a little bit different than maybe was originally intended, so we have to revisit this.
Comments, no quick Counselor Connell?
So at the time, we were considering an adjacent county sewer systems, water supply systems to look into. I think the study was pretty well done on that aspect. Is there any consideration on maybe for building our own sewer facility in that east end somewhere to help work? If we're not getting any answers or we're not getting any ability to add into the Greenwater Kingston facilities there, so has the study included something that we may be able to put in place ourselves to encourage work?
I'll look to Paula, but I would suggest no, that hasn't been done. Obviously, you know, it's very different to tie you into somebody else's system than to build your own.
So, yeah, no,
So, you know, you're not talking a couple of million, you're adding some zeros on there, whether it's 1 or 2. We haven't looked at that, you know. So yeah, so, you know, we've done what we can to this one. That's always something we could do, but again, as you can guess, you start talking systems, you start talking tens of millions of dollars, not.
So for encouraging growth in that east end, we haven't even, unless management does, do we know what environment's looking at? The size of lots. We were planning that if someone comes in, wants to subdivide, block the land, we help them with that. Have some kind of info form to say, well, you're gonna be looking at environment, looking at specifically 2 acre block for subdivision, because for a developer to know if they can get 10 lots on their acreage they want to subdivide, or 5 lots, would be the decision if they're even gonna go that way.
So I mean, that's something, if somebody came to us with a project, I mean, that's absolutely something that the planning department would say, this is what you need.
Yeah.
To do it. Whether-
Okay. Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? We're moving on.
Okay, the next one, the former Upper Clemens theme park could potentially be developed into a large residential area with free acquisition of 64 acres of land, possible contract for the Plymouth property area of public consultation, work and development and seed funding for a large scale community project. This could include housing, et cetera, et cetera. So again, this is similar to the other one, but a little bit different. Which it's quite interesting. I mean, it's hard to have, because I think this one and the other one that references Upper Clemens Park are kind of contradictory a little bit too. So again, I think we have plans.
No questions, comments, and move on.
The 3, so the current strategic priority 3 is maintaining countywide community facilities. So the first one was compiling a full inventory of all municipally owned and recreation properties and buildings across Annapolis County, with the goal of determining where our strengths are, what geographic areas of the county require more recreational service or investment. So I do have a note that says inventory has been completed. We're working on analyzing the data, and basically we'll be looking to bring forward information back to council. So partially complete.
Comments, whoa. Deputy Warden, Counselor Connell. Is he one more? Yes, no.
Well, I do want to say something really good came out of this, is we received that huge booklet on recreation halls and different infrastructure throughout Annapolis County, not just in our municipal units, but also the adjacent town of Annapolis Road and Middleton. And I believe that was supposed to be meant to not just be shelved, but to be updated as because it was a great book of knowledge, and it really helps represent what we actually have. I believe that a good portion of that was done, and it was great to see. And
Oh, beautiful. I agree. Counselor Connell?
Oh, and that was gonna be my comment is that when we look at this, is that we've got to look at different municipal units that have recreation that support our communities in those areas. Because I'll always stress, and I'll stress when I'm not on council, it doesn't really matter if Annapolis County owns the Bridgetown Arena, the Bridgetown Pool, and the Bridgetown Ball Field. Communities aren't gonna drive by their community efforts they put their lifetime into just because the county owns those facilities. People in Martinsville are gonna use the Middleton Arena. People on outside of Lawrencetown are gonna use Lawrencetown Arena. It makes very little difference when you talk to people. They don't really care if the county owns what. It's what they've supported, what they've worked through their life supporting. So it's very important to look at the infrastructure. I know that it's a different type of how we're going to fund them or how we're going to deal with them, but we have to definitely look, and we definitely have to look at what's passing Atlas Royal, because we took away what recreational funding or recreational area they had when we closed the Lightplex. Again, I will say they pay the same taxes as everyone else across our county, so we definitely have to look countywide on our recreation. Adding the priorities.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, we're moving on.
Next one is completing a review of the municipality's 3 current recreation grant programs to streamline community recreation grant funding into one simpler community recreation grant funding program with increased funding opportunities in terms of both scope and funding amounts. With a special focus on underserviced areas of communities with few current recreational opportunities in their own geographic area as well as accessibility. So the grant funding program has been updated. I would say after our next week, I'll also say that there's some other updates that we can do moving forward, but for now, it's been marked.
Any comments, questions? Nope.
Okay, next one, establishing a core standard of basic infrastructure facilities that should be available in the 5 core areas of Annapolis County, north, south, east, west, and central, for health, safety, and recreational purposes. After creating the core standard, public consultations in specific areas will take place to ensure developments are consistent with community expectations and future sustainability. So again, not complete, but certainly something that we continue to work on.
We have a question from Councilor Thomas.
Just trying to read it again to get grasp on what it's actually saying. Well, because in my mind, you've named it north, south, east, west, and central. And all 5 of those areas directed to, they're gonna be different. One core standard will not be the same on the south side as it is in the central. The lifestyles are different. It's people's mindsets are different, so it would just, one core standard would have to be a big standard to cover every aspect of north, south, east, west, and central.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Hare.
I'm just gonna echo that and specifically echo people's mindsets are vastly different when you get to different parts of the county.
But there would be a public consultation.
Yeah.
Councilor Eigenbar?
Very briefly, to me, establishing a core standard is one half of the sentence, and the rest is of basic infrastructure facilities. So I think you can have a core standard that's, universal, but if it's specific to basic, that's a little bit different concept. So to me, I would want to know what the definition of basic infrastructure facility is in respect to that particular item.
Okay.
I think there's some interpretation situation.
Agreed. And Councilor Oxner?
Further to what Councillor Egenber stated, is this washrooms or is this ball field? I think we need to have a better understanding of what
Yeah.
this means. If it's accessible washrooms, makes total sense. If it's having a ball field or a soccer field or a football field, no,
Yeah,
that
that's-
doesn't make sense.
Exactly my
Yeah, we need more information.
Anybody else?
So I would say those are all very good questions. Make sure you ask these questions when we bring back to the. Because and this is a bit of an issue with the way some of these are written. And I've heard a couple of you say that I don't remember that one. And I'm coming in new and I'm reading it. I don't know what it means. I've asked some people and they don't know what it means. So we have to be, I think Councilor Hare mentioned SMART goals, like
Yeah.
we really need to make sure that it's very clear that this is what we say we're gonna do it. and how we're gonna do it, and when we're gonna do it.
Agree. Next,
All right, next one, carry out a review of current and potential new active transportation routes for bicycles, pedestrians, motorized, non-motorized vehicles, develop a 10-year plan for the redevelopment of some current routes and facilitate the process of developing new routes, ensuring accessibility for all. This will be done in conjunction with Nova Scotia Public Works All-Terrain Vehicle Association, County Trails, Town of Annapolis, Royal Milton, Village of Lawrence, private property owners. So we have this marked as partially complete. We do have an outdated active transportation plan, so there's some work that we need to do to update some of this. But again, I think this one has been touched on by a number of you as well, to especially the, when we're talking about recreation and how we can promote recreation that's not maybe what we would consider.
we have a question from Councillor Welsh.
Just, is Rob, instead of putting incomplete, could we have some that just stay ongoing? Because some of these will never be completed. They will always be part of the process.
Yeah, certainly we can adjust, I mean, I think the good point, so like incomplete is that we haven't done it. In some cases, we probably can't, in some cases.
What we've put money into. We've put money into shared the road. And I can tell you 95% of those signs, the post is sticking there.
Yeah.
No sign on them anymore. Transportation is not gonna babysit Naps County share the road sign. So I mean, there was a program we did, thought we were doing good, putting the advertisement out there, but no follow up. That even goes to where county signs, I mean, our county signs are outdated or when you look at the other county signs going out of 10, and look at our dinky little sign coming in. People probably don't even see it, because it's covered up in branches and it's not maintained. Our transportation are not gonna cut out our public sign. So I mean, that's just another portion of maintenance that we put in place. And we gotta make sure that our signs are visual and clean, so it's part of the maintenance program that should be put in place, so,
Accessibility as well.
yeah.
Anybody else? Nope.
Okay, next one, during the redevelopment of all municipally owned public park areas, install level 2 or higher electric vehicle charging stations at each facility beginning in 24-25 with a goal of multiple charging locations in each core area by 30. So I do have this march is completed. Now we did had one at the Bridgetown Sports Hub and then one at the former town hall in Bridgetown. But you know, we've been working on other public park areas. In some cases, I wouldn't recommend that we consider installing. Yeah, Sir Cuddle's laughing.
I need one at Shannon River.
Specifically the points, I mean,
Yeah.
a little bit vague. I think if this is an item that council wishes us to pursue, we would say develop a plan as to where we would install. Not every municipally owned public park area.
Okay, oh, sorry, Councillor Hare.
Just quickly, it needs to be demand driven.
Yeah.
Because I believe there's been charging stations installed and under. Demand driven.
Don't use them at Shannon River and everywhere.
Yeah,
You'll come there now.
Councillor Connells,
Uh,
everyone,
just around this one, I'd love to know what program Annapolis Royal
Hmm.
got
let's see.
for the charging stations that they got. They didn't have to pay a dime for them. They were installed by Nova Scotia Power through a program they had free of cost, including even the pavement around it. Now, was that the causeway thing, and this is a nicety? Or is that actually a program that we could potentially tap into, but not, if this is something that we do, like, in some ways, some parks would make sense to have one where, or I don't wanna say make sense. There could be a case to have them there if it's a facility that they would be on a trail for quite some time. Like I'm thinking about the one that's in Clemens. You know, you would spend a few hours in there. And I think that was part of the vision of Annapolis Road. But I do know that the charging station that was just placed at the sports hub, there's a lot of people that's reached out to myself and to ACOS chomping at the bit for when it gets turned on. Because they're gonna be sitting there for hours and watching their kids play soccer, all these different events. And some of them, as soon as they put it up, they park there to see if they could use it. So I think that one's gonna have more use than the one that was at the parking lot. But the fact that we just got a sign across the road from the parking lot that actually says EV charging station there, I think is gonna be a big help.
Yes.
Because, you know, we have these things, but again, if we're not selling them, then they're not gonna be used.
We just need to arrange that. Oh, you can't have one.
I want to gain. The grass was so high around the one in the parking lot last year, you couldn't even see. So if it is gonna be in a maintenance program to keep it maintained, and I would like to have a report on how much it's being used. Because to me, if there's other places within the town boundary or the community of Bridgetown that would like to have a charging station, if that station's not being used, what's it there for? I've seen, and all the time I've come down through there, I've seen 2 vehicles plugged in.
At the hub?
No, at the parking lot. So it may be just bad location. But unless we get a report on actually how many times that's being used per month or for quarterly or whatever, we never hear.
Okay, so that's a different aspect. I thought we talked about that anyway. Yes, Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. And the only thing that I would want to raise is oftentimes we don't use the language accessibility. We need to make sure that all of those types of things that we're putting in brand new, that we're doing it right the first time, smart, not having to go back and make corrections, right?
So. Anybody else? Okay, we're moving on.
And next one is providing the highest quality recreation facilities in the Annapolis Valley through the annual investment of funding for municipally owned facilities and properties, as well as community owned facilities, with investment preference given to those properties with smaller population, fewer recreational opportunities, and increased accessibility. So I would say that, you know, we've certainly invested a little bit in different parts of the community. I do think that we need a bit better plan with that assessment and investment looks like from a criteria perspective.
Okay, comments, questions? Seeing none, we're moving on.
Next one, continue to develop in-house staffing capacity to design, build, and maintain all community infrastructure, trails and parks to ensure sustainability and accessibility of facilities while protecting against future substantial cost increases and unavailability of products, servicing, and labor. So last year, just as some of you likely know, our public works crew, we didn't have a full crew for most of the summer. This year, right now, we do. So hopefully we maintain that. But it is, you know, the more things that we maintain, the more staffing and the more resources we need to invest to do that. So that's Sarah.
Any statements, comments, questions? Oh, Councilor Longmire?
Just a quick question. Students are always an asset, certainly in the spring, summer season, or whenever they're available, I guess. Schools get out different,
Exactly, yeah.
and there's funding, right? Which I know we
We
take.
usually get grants
Yeah.
for students, don't we? We get
We
two?
do, yeah, there's
For two?
limitations, but
Is it usually for two?
we got 3 this year.
Three? Oh, that's.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some co-op and stuff too.
Yeah,
We use it as much as we possibly can, but
Yeah.
there's still limits.
Yes.
right, exactly. Excellent. Okay, we're done with this one as well. Okay. We are moving to number 4, but we only have 8 minutes left, so I don't think it's even, doesn't make common sense to start it because we'd be wherever. Do we all agree that we have completed the first section of this and we're gonna have a meet again? As you know, because we need to complete this, but we had great discussion, and I'm sure that both the CAO and the deputy CAO and even Tina here, her fingers have been working 100 miles an hour to collect information that's been given. At this time, I thank Mr. Rob for presenting. I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you. Have a great day.
Everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here.